So yeah, as mentioned, I was a senior at Penn studying business. I That spring I held a dance workshop with an offer to start with a startup after I graduated. And the week of the accident, I flew to San Francisco for an urgent project with my mentor, Yasmina, at her startup. We interviewed users at Stanford, which is me here. I was like, wow, this is amazing. I need to go to grad school here. And this is me, I'm just looking prime. This is me as a dancer. Like, this actually was the prime of myself before, I believe. So on May 8th, I was with Yasmina. We were working on a project in Center City. We went out to lunch, and then we were both hit by a Jeep in the crosswalk. The guy was in the center lane, swerved around a bunch of other cars to take a left turn at a red light, I guess. Um, Yasmina was actually run over um, and just had some like fractures in her pelvis. I had it way worse and had a severe TBI and craniectomy, as you learned. This is me fighting with my nurses, as you can see. And I actually did graduate in the hospital. This is the vice dean of Wharton who came with my diplomas, and I was really happy. And that's my family. Yeah, so from around, I mean, I don't know when this started, but I was not in touch with reality. I was convinced to my core that I was in the hospital because of this long winding story that involved me meeting up with a guy I had a crush on. He's from Italy. He does exist in real life, but I don't know why he was in Philly. And I put on a lion costume and went to some like underground bar. We fell in love. It was getting very serious, and I needed to like get a surgery to be accepted by his family, who is like probably like Brazilian at this point. I don't know why I thought this, but the surgery entailed me putting these like kind of like spikes out of the back of my body. They were essentially hips in my universe. And um, I also became a black woman. Um, this is just like how I had to do it in order to make it work with this guy. And so I actually remember this dream very vividly, this reality. It did happen to me. Um, I believe I was asking every nurse, doctor that came in my room, like, oh, so can you please tell my mom that I'm here because I had a sex change surgery? Like, she's not believing me. This is ridiculous. Can you check my chart, please? And they just would look and say, like, no, I don't see that. And I mean, it took me months to get my injury to understand it. So it's kind of funny. But this was truly my reality at the time. On May 20th, I was disinduced from the coma and sent to Penn Rehab. You can see my awesome cone head here, neck brace and all, which was so uncomfortable. And my family all flew in to visit. My body hair was growing so much, as you can see. And yeah, I didn't really understand any of this. On May 31st, um, I sent an email to Lori, the vice dean of Wharton, who previously came and gave me these diplomas. And the way my sister likes to tell this story is like, I wrote this really nice email, thanking her for coming. I heard you said some really nice words, um, like this and that. And Shelby was like, wow, yeah, this is going really well. Like Carlie's actually kind of coherent. But before she edited it, the last sentence was like, "Okay, see you next week at graduation." Despite me talking about graduation happening, and Shelby had to rewrite this last sentence saying like, you know, some more like real stuff. But she came back a few days later and brought me a cap and gown, and like we took a photo. And I do remember being like really happy. I felt sad that I wasn't able to experience like this huge moment in my life as I was expecting to, but I still didn't really understand why, but I was happy. June 3rd was my first journal entry. Actually pretty funny. I'll read it to you. In Penn rehab, my head hurts for the 11th day in a row. I'm eating mediocre pancakes and sausage, and this neck brace hurts my jaw. And I feel extreme ambition in me to live my life a certain way. I want to build something really real. I want to travel with my friends, wear strange sunglasses, be interviewed. I think this part's so funny because I was like, not about to be interviewed about anything. But I was super ambitious and inspired, acknowledged. I wanted to be acknowledged. Um, I've sat in this bed for 2 weeks now with this unshakable ambition for my life. I want to live in New York. I feel certainly inspired there. Really profound.
It's amazing that
I mean, the parts of my brain that were like active is pretty interesting, considering how much was just not in touch. On June 9th, I was moved home to Wisconsin, which is where I'm from, to attend day rehab at a rehab facility called Shirley Ryan out of Chicago. And during this period, I thought it was so dumb. I I didn't think rehab was worth it. Like I knew that I didn't have abilities, but it was so hard to make it through every day. I really struggled with fatigue and doing basic things like using my fingers was so hard. And I fought with my parents a ton. I didn't want to go to rehab. I just thought this was a waste of my
So, Carlie, how long were your rehab sessions each day?
time. 7 hours a day, and they would give me like a 45-minute nap and like 45-minute lunch.
And that was for 5 days a week? Or how,
4 or 5, I don't remember.
do you know how many weeks?
Um, I think probably like 9.
Yeah, that's intense for anybody, I think.
It was very intense, and like more than anything, like losing abilities was one thing, but losing all energy was so hard. Like I just wanted to sleep all day long, and I could have, and I did when people didn't stop me from doing that. And the headaches were insane. They were so bad. I was extremely sensitive to light and noise. Um, Thankfully, on August 5th, about 3 months after the craniectomy, I did have my cranioplasty. As you can see, like the scabs were taking a very long time to heal, and that's why they couldn't do it sooner. It was pretty nasty. And this is my cone head looking amazing. And then I had a new skull. It was my own skull, but like, wow, that actually really changed everything in terms of the headaches, especially. And this is me with Dr. Chen, who I still check in with pretty often because I've been feeling a lot of like sensitivity and pain on the perimeter of my bone flap. And we've found through CT scans that it's actually thinning out, it's resorbing, he says. So I might need to have another cranioplasty in the future. Um, probably like a 3D printed bone flap. We'll see. Um, and then a few weeks after my cranioplasty, my family was finding it really hard to have someone bring me down to Chicago every single week for rehab, stay in a hotel, miss work to be with me. And I was still in this phase of like, I'm just mad. I want my life back. I want my independence. So I convinced them to let me move to Philly and do rehab at Penn, where I lived alone. And my boyfriend really, he really seemed like he was going to take care of me. But as it turned out, when I got here, I was extremely fatigued still, very disabled, depressed. It was starting to hit me that, like, I might not have very much hope. And I also had not really a support system in this city. Like, I tried to keep busy. I did one class at Penn, and I worked with a startup for 3 hours a week ish. And I also did rehab at Penn Rehab about 3 hours a week. But I was just so tired and had headaches every single day, and it was a pretty bad existence. Um, During this time also, I just really started to confront like the fact that I just didn't feel like me. Um, I just didn't really feel like anyone. And I went to a TBI conference and they were saying things like, "Oh, it's okay if your personality changed. That happens." And that was actually the first time it occurred to me. And I was looking at all of my friends from college who were just like not really present. I didn't have many friends. My boyfriend was becoming increasingly absent. And with this message that they gave at the conference, I thought like, okay, well, I'm definitely not me. I don't know who I am. I guess this personality change that must have occurred, I must have a bad personality now. And this was a really, really dark, scary time. And I felt like I was just like floating in the universe, like just I was confronting, I was feeling like the universe is just like so vast and random and meaningless. And I, you can see I look like a ghost in these. And it was really a dark, dark time. And also, my rehab team at at Good Shepherd, or what's it called?
Good Shepherd Penn
At
Partners.
Good Shepherd Penn Partners, they got my family and I into a room and they were like, "Hey, we're doing a checkup. Carlie's plateauing. She's not recovering very much anymore." And basically said like, "You're kind of wasting your money. Like you should, take her out of rehab with us." And my boyfriend broke up with me like pretty close after this, and I was feeling even more hopeless and floating, like groundlessness it felt. And I just, like, my family, like they were really trying to be supportive, but also I think trying to get me to like understand what was going on. So like my dad would say things like, "So Carlie, like what are you gonna do for the rest of your life now that you're disabled?" And I would just be like, I don't know. Like, wait, like this is for good, you mean? Like no one really like knew how to like help or how to predict anything. And that was really, really frightening because previously I was a Penn student. I was so ambitious and just high performing at everything, and I just had nothing. And I was like, well, okay, I guess like I'll be a snowboard instructor. I guess I could do that. I was planning what my life would be like if I wasn't smart anymore or capable. and that was really, really tough. And I also, this is in a weird order, that's fine. The winter came around and I started to like really try to change myself because I just was not happy. I was not doing well like with this transition. And I began to like despise my old ego. Like I was pretty like nothing was automated anymore. I didn't know how to act in front of people. I felt like I didn't have a personality. And since like I wasn't gonna be who I thought I was, which was like talented and high achieving and cool, like I I just like had a really hard time letting go of that version of myself that I once was. And I became like really just like saddened by how much of my old personality was crafted. Like I largely did things to seem likable by other people. And, you know, I was like also just having such a hard time letting this Carlie go that I started to despise being attached to any of this stuff. And, the way that my old brain worked, that I was largely like externally like waiting for external affirmation. Um, One funny thing that did happen, of course, was that I lost my inhibition and I bleached my hair. I was super goofy. I bleached my hair again purple, and I just like was totally a goof and felt no shame about it. Um, and this was definitely like, I was also wondering like, well, wait, why did I turn into the person I used to be anyways? I didn't really choose my personality then. I just it just grew and became me over time, since I was a baby. And I guess I've looked at some things that I used to be, and I just think like, okay, well, that was like not a good thing. I'm not going to rebuild that. So I'm like a little bit more of a hippie now. This is me recently, like a month ago. And spontaneous. I think like we all spend way too much time like trying to seem something for other people. So that's definitely a very good positive personality trait that I've grown and accepted. Way later than that conference said that, but I guess that was the beginning of it. Um, and I also I I I was I realized how much my old self was unable to fathom being different than myself or my life situation, and empathy took over my entire brain. I began talking to people on the street, homeless people, just everyone. And I also began documenting my hard times. These are all pictures of me extremely emotional in mostly a bad way. This was me when uh, that girl won the Olympics, and I just thought it was so beautiful. But I was like, okay, this is great. I never want to become so detached from like real human experience. So I've started to like photograph myself when I'm really in a terrible spot, which does still happen, but it's becoming less and less. Anyways, these three slides were kind of like my transformation over the last almost 2 years. But I'll go back to the winter of 2020, 9 months after my accident. I went to Canada to get a treatment called the PONS treatment. It's a neuromodulation stimulation device that you put on your tongue, the trigeminal cranial nerve, and it really enhances neuroplasticity. And this thing absolutely changed the game for me. After it, I was able to be busy all day. I didn't need naps. Even if busy was just like doing chores and errands, like that was unthinkable before I did this treatment. And I guess this photo's not working, but oh, it's an emoji. You know, do you guys all know the like head explode emoji? Yeah. That's what this picture was. Um, anyways, at this clinic in Canada, I began talking to other TBI survivors because I hadn't been in the TBI support group before this. And they looked at me and I was like, you know, still kind of feeling hopeless. And they were like, wait, Carlie, every day is a chance to recover. Every day I read for 30 minutes and then I go on a 40-minute power walk and then I go read again and then I, take a nap and then I go do a memory game. Every day is a chance to recover. And this is going to sound so silly, but like it wasn't until I met these people that like I I it just didn't click before this time that my recovery was up to me. Previously, when I was in those other rehabs and just kind of like moving along, after they said like, "Oh, she's plateauing," I was kind of like, it didn't really like make sense to me that I need to get myself moving or things weren't going to happen. And this changed everything. So I started working that spring. I started at 20 hours a week at the startup that I was supposed to join after graduation, um, 9 months earlier. And I was completely incompetent, but I was curious and inquisitive. I was smart, but I just had no confidence. And thankfully, the company continued to renew contracts. My time per week increased from 25 hours to 30 to 35, and then full time I started this past spring. And I think I like in some ways have been gaslit along the way. The company I think has kind of started to view me as like a charity case, and I struggle to set boundaries with myself and assert myself. Um, but it's gotten much better in the last 6 months, and I actually got a promotion a few weeks ago, um, which is pretty crazy how much I have improved. And I think every month I see a lot of change.
Yeah, it's remarkable.
So thank you for listening to my talk. I just want to say, if you guys want to follow my recovery Instagram, it's this one here. Very honest and real. Um, this one here is my censored, real Instagram, but you can follow that too. But this one's a real good one.
The Pearl Priv is your
Yeah,
recovery one?
like Pearl is my nickname and Priv is private. Thank you for listening. I hope this was insightful.